Here's a recap of some of the basics of Microsoft Excel that we talked about in class. We can enter text in any of these cells. Here's the columns labeled by letters, the rows labeled by numbers, and cells are just all these little boxes. We can enter text, and we can either think of it as entering here, or we can put it in this entry line, which is a good place to enter and edit everything. Press enter. We can enter numbers, put that in there. We can enter a percent. We can go here. Now this is going to look a little different because this is a different version of Excel, but the basics are the same. So I won't focus on the formatting too much, but I need this in. I want it in percent anyway. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Sorry. That's what I'm doing. So like number percent. There we go. So I could put that as 7%. And so I can enter stuff, but that's not the interesting stuff. As we saw, what's more interesting is to do references. So we can do equals, and that is a formula that uses references. And we could do A3 times A2, and that would be 7% of 12.47. And the great thing there is that if I change this to 8%, it automatically updates. If I change this to 15.79, that automatically updates. So that's one of the things that we talked about. Now, if I want to, suppose I wanted to copy this down and say, oh, I want another cell that has the same formula in it. Well, it gives a different answer. Well, that's because what's happened when I copied it down, it's using what's called relative referencing. And when I look at the cell here, when I typed in A3 times A2, what it really thought I meant is the one just to the left and the one to the left and up. And that's what it's doing here. A4 is just the left, and to the left and up is 8%. So if I wanted to have exactly the same answer, what you do is you put dollar signs. And we talked a little bit about how the dollar sign in front of A means that I'm always going to use A regardless of what column I'm in right now. And the dollar sign in front of 3 means I'm always going to use row 3. So that if you put both in, it says I'm never going to switch from that cell. And I'll put both of them in there as well. Okay. Now if I copy that guy, oh shoot. Let me undo. There we go. If I copy that guy, paste, now it's really going to use exactly the same thing. It's not going to update those and try to be so smart as to think I mean something else, and I just messed that up. Okay. So that's an important thing, is the idea of relative versus absolute addressing or referencing. Okay, and so let's put in what we had, a version of what we had today. We were redoing a version of our lump sum investment retirement investment calculation. Notice I can adjust the width here if I can't see everything. Okay, so let's say we put in $10,000 and we put in the interest rate. Notice I changed that to a letter, and so it has no idea what I'm doing, and so that's okay. We'll fix it. Now this one, I want to make sure that's going to be a percentage, and let's say 7%. It's defaulting to 2 decimal places, and I could change that, but that's not important. And it's a little different in our version, the newer version of Excel anyway. Okay, and now let's say we start with year 0. We haven't earned any interest so far. And let's go that kind of full version we did toward the end of class, where I was kind of spelling everything out really, really explicitly. Amount at start of year. Let's make that a little bigger. And interest earned for that year, and amount at end. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, so the amount at the start of the first year, that should just be this guy. Now, the reason I'm not putting in 10,000 just again is because I want everything to refer to these two numbers, and so that when I update these numbers, everything else is going to change and all the stuff I'm going to calculate over here. So you never want to enter the same number twice. You always want to make it put it in a cell and then refer to its cell name instead. Now, at A2, in fact, if I start copying that around, it's going to copy down in weird places, so I'm going to actually have to do an absolute address. Okay. Now, the interest on $10,000 for 1 year is going to be that amount that I have in there times the interest rate. Now I could just click. You can see I can just click to get the reference, but you know what? That doesn't work if I need an absolute reference, so I'm going to have to modify it. Notice that to edit it, it's better to go up in here. Sometimes it works in here, but sometimes it can get screwy results. Okay, so that's 7% of $10,000, so that's the $700 they're going to give me. So at the end of that year, I'm going to have those together, and I'm just going to add these together. Now here, I used totally relative referencing, because what I want to do is I want to replicate this idea over and over and over again. So here, in year 1, I'm going to start with whatever I had there. Okay, that's just going to be E2. And how much interest am I going to get? Well, it's exactly the same formula. It's whatever was just to the left, that's that relative C2, times the interest rate, which is the absolute with the dollar signs A4. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it here. And there's the $749 that I get on 10,700. And then this said, add the things, the 2 to the left and 1 to the left. Okay, that's going to work. So I'm going to Control C, Control V. I'm doing copy and paste there is what I'm doing. I do all this stuff on the keyboard, and it's a bad habit if I'm doing a movie, but it's a lot easier than going to copy, paste. So, okay, so now let's see what we have. This one says whatever I had at the end of last year, I start with the start of this year. This one says multiply by the interest rate that's never changing. This one says add those two to get what you get next time. So it looks like I'm going to be able to, for the second year, copy all that. So what I did is shift right arrow to select it. I could just click and drag to select. I could click and then shift click to select. Any way of selecting those cells is good. I'm going to copy. I guess I'll do it on the menu. Copy. It feels so slow to do this. Paste. Okay. So that means after 2 years, I've got, this is at the start of the third year. I've been paid interest 3 times, in fact. So in fact, this guy is after 3 interests. So I don't know if I'm setting it up in the best way, but this is how we set it up in class. Okay, so I'd like to do this for 45 years to retirement. Well, that would be kind of tedious if I had to just copy and paste all the time. So let me show you 2 other things that we did in class. One is filling down with a series. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, just going to click and drag to highlight all the way down to somewhere about 50, just to be safe. I can always delete a few. The goal here is to get 45 years worth of stuff. And then I'm going to, I don't need a sort, let's see. What do I want? I want a series. I go back and forth between different versions of Excel and fill. Okay, here we go. Fill, and I want a series. So I'm going to fill a bunch of stuff with sort of copies of the same thing. But here I want a series. The series is in columns. It's linear growth. It's going to step by 1. Okay, and that just gives me those numbers. There's other ways to do that, but that's a pretty good way to do it. Now, here's the cool thing. I'm going to take all these guys, and I'm going to just select all these, and then I'm going to click the magic fill button. If you hover over here, it turns into a little plus, a smaller plus. And I'm going to go down all the rows I have and just let go. Unclick. That fills everything in all the way down. Now, let's see. I think I went a little bit too far. Okay, so 45 years, and we discovered that, let's see, this was really at the end of 1 year, and so that's at the first year we've gotten one block of interest. And so if we want to figure out how much we get after 45 years, I'll just delete these guys, because that's going to be this guy. I'm going to go ahead and put that little box around that to make it to highlight it. Okay, and that's looking like how much we're going to have at the end. because what we've done is that we've copied that fill down, just copied down, 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 and any relative address gets updated. So like this one is in cell E13, and it's referring to E12, which is this guy. This guy does the interest calculation. That guy figures out how much after you've paid in that interest. So these are really important tools. Filling with a series, filling with copies, which is just the standard kind of fill. We could also have done that as like go to edit, fill down, or just Control D is the quickest way to do it. There's various ways to do it. Or you could see that little plus on the when you hover over the corner. And the only other thing, just to make it nice, I'm going to, let's see. Let me go ahead and just select all those numbers. Whoa, that's not what I wanted to do. I went to the very bottom of the sheet, and that's a long way down. I'm going to go ahead and change that to dollar format. Currency. So that gives us 2 decimal places and dollar signs. Okay, and so now that tells us, oh, look, it's too big. We got lots of money. Just widen those up. And there's our $210,000 that we get at the end of 45 years. And let me show you one other thing real quick. I did show the little split screen to people. If you take that little bar and split it down, you might have done this in like a Word program. Then what I can do is I can show the ending at the bottom screen, and I can play with the interest rate. Ooh, 8%. Oh yeah, that's nice. $320,000. 9%. Wow, almost $500,000. That's pretty cool. What about a more meager thing? Well, okay. That's still almost 4 times as much as I started with. Or I could play with the initial amount. That doubles it. Surprise, surprise. Okay. So that's going to be most of the tools I think we're going to need for the investigation that we're going to do.